There is a little white farmhouse in the hills of eastern Kentucky where the morning fog sits low in the valley. A creek runs along the bottom of the property, and the birds are so loud in spring they will wake you before your alarm ever gets the chance. It sits on land you could walk for 10 full minutes and still be standing on ground that is yours. You could be out on that porch by April, coffee in your hand, water running somewhere below you, not another human being in sight. And the whole thing, house, acreage, the creek, all of it, cost less than one single year in a nursing home. Now, let that sit for a second because nobody says it to you out loud. They will tell you that a year of care runs into 6 figures and that there is nothing you can do about it. And the number is real. As of 2026, the national median for a semi-private room, that is a shared room, runs right around $115,000 a year, according to the Care Scout Cost of Care Survey. That is the going rate for 12 months in a room down the hall from strangers, and the number climbs a little more every single year. Here is the part they leave out. That same money, spent one time, could put a deed in your hand and land under your feet for the rest of your life. I want to be clear about something before we go one step further, because it matters. This is not a knock on nursing homes, and it is not a knock on the families who use them. Those places exist for a reason. Some people genuinely need real medical care, around the clock, and no cabin in the woods can give them that. If that is your situation, or your mother's, or your husband's, there is no shame in it. None at all. This video is not about telling anyone where they should live. It is about the money and about the plain fact that almost nobody sits you down and tells you the same dollars could buy you something you actually own. So I went looking, and I found real houses on real land all across this country listed right now for a fraction of that number. The place we land on at number 3 sits on a full 40 acres for less than half of 1 year of care. But we are going to start somewhere even cheaper than that. Before we do, we need rules, because the internet is full of these videos with fake prices and land that turns out to be a swamp you cannot even walk across. That is not what we are doing here. Every property on this list has to pass 3 tests, and if it fails even one, it is gone. Test 1. It has to be a real livable home, not raw land, not a foundation and a dream, an actual structure you could sleep in tonight, even if it needs work in the morning. Test 2. It has to come with real acreage, not a quarter-acre lot in a dead subdivision. We mean land you can walk for 10 minutes and still be on your own property. Test 3. The total price has to come in under 1 year of nursing home care, under that $115,000 line, and in almost every case, far under it. And then there is a 4th thing, which is not a test. It is a promise. Every place here comes with one honest catch, and I am going to say it out loud every single time, because you deserve the whole story before you fall in love with a photograph. One more thing. I am a scout, not your lawyer, not your banker, and not your doctor. Prices change, listings sell, and you should always walk the property and read the paperwork yourself before you spend a dime. This is a starting map, not advice. Now, let us go find you some land. Number 15. We start deep in the hills of eastern Kentucky, in old coal country. Picture that white frame house tucked into a green Appalachian holler, about 22 acres of hardwood forest climbing the ridge behind it, and that creek running along the bottom. In October, the whole ridge turns golden red, and the only traffic you will hear is the wind coming down through the trees. Here is your wow fact for this one. These hills built the coal that ran America for 100 years. The men who lived in houses just like this, one dug the fuel that kept the lights on in cities they would never once visit. That history is baked into every holler out here, in the old company towns and the rail lines grown over with weeds. The number on this house and its 22 acres is around $45,000. That is roughly 4 months of a shared room. Except instead of 4 months, you get the whole place. And you get it forever. The property taxes on a little mountain place like this run only a few $100s a year. So once you own it, holding on to it costs almost nothing. So what is the catch? There are two, and they are serious. First, a lot of this land sits in a flood zone. And in 2022, these Kentucky hills saw some of the worst flooding in the state's history, with homes washed clean off their foundations and people who lost everything overnight. So you pulled the FEMA flood maps before you sign anything, and you ask right up front what flood insurance would cost you every year. Second, the coal jobs that built these towns are mostly gone, and they are not coming back. That is a big part of why the price is what it is. You are buying a house, yes, but you are also buying into a place that is still figuring out its next chapter. And believe me, it gets stranger from here. Number 14. Now roll south and west into the Mississippi Delta, some of the flattest, richest farmland on the whole continent. Out past the water towers and the endless rows of cotton, this is where the cheapest homes in America tend to hide. Your wow fact here is a big one. This flat delta ground is the birthplace of the blues. The music that grew into rock and roll, the music that changed the whole world, came up out of these fields and these little crossroads towns. Some of the most famous names in American music learned to play a guitar on porches that look exactly like the one you would be buying. Out here you can find a modest house with around 15 acres for something like $35,000. That is barely 3 months of care for a home and some of the best topsoil you will ever sink a shovel into. Farmers pay a fortune to have dirt like this. You would get it in your own backyard, and the yearly tax bill is usually small enough that it will not change how you sleep at night. The catch is honest, and it is heavy. These delta towns were built on cotton and farm labor, and when the machines took over the fields, the jobs left with them. A lot of these communities have been losing people for decades. The house itself will most likely need real work too. Roof, wiring, plumbing, the kind of repairs that stack up fast. So get a good inspection and budget for them before you fall in love. And the Mississippi summers do not play around. With heat and humidity that sit on you like a wet blanket from June clear through September. This one is for the person who wants land to grow on and does not need a job waiting down the road. But what if you want mountains and you want to skip the bank entirely? Number 13. Then you head into the Arkansas Ozarks, and the whole game changes, because down here a lot of sellers offer something you rarely see anywhere else. Owner financing. No bank involved. You pay the person who owns the land a little every month, and you get to skip the whole mortgage circus. Here is the wow fact. Owner financing means your credit score barely matters. Sellers out here have been doing handshake land deals for generations, long before a bank ever cared about these hills. You can find a small cabin on around 20 acres of Ozark hardwood for something like $40,000. And sometimes you can get started with just a few $1,000s down and a signature. The annual taxes on a rural parcel like that usually run only a few $100s, so the ongoing cost stays easy on a fixed income. In spring, the dogwoods bloom white all through the hills, and in the fall, the whole ridge turns the color of a campfire. The catch is the one people always forget to ask about until it is far too late, and that catch is water. A lot of these cheap Ozark parcels do not have a well. That means you are hauling water in, catching rainwater off the roof, or paying to drill your own. And a new well can cost you a real chunk of what you paid for the land in the first place. The access can be rough too. Dirt roads that turn to soup the second it rains, and grades that will test whatever you are driving. But if you are fine being a little off-grid, and you like the idea of solving problems with your own two hands, the Ozarks are calling your name. Now, I point out these catches for a reason, A home this cheap is only the deal of a lifetime if you don't get burned on the one thing nobody warned you about. Quick word before we keep going. Everything we keep pointing out, those are the exact catches we dig out of county records every week. And we have put every single one of them into a set of guides called Frank's Land Report Cheap Living Collection. There is one on the 50 catches hidden in cheap land listings, and that is the one for exactly what we are doing today, plus one on the 40 catches hidden in cheap houses and a state-by-state notebook on where it is actually still cheap and what to ask. They are a few dollars each, instant download, and they are linked right in the description below. All right, back to it. Number 12. Southeastern Oklahoma, down in the Kiamichi country, is one of the most underrated pockets of cheap land in the entire country. Pine-covered mountains, clear lakes, and mornings so quiet you can hear the water lapping from your porch. Your wow fact is the tax bill. Oklahoma has some of the gentlest property taxes in the nation, so a place out here might cost you only a few $100s a year to hold. You can find a house on close to 28 acres, or around $50,000. That is less than half of 1 year of care, and it comes with your own private stretch of pine forest, and on a lot of these parcels, a view of the mountains that folks drive hours just to photograph. The catch is the sky. This is Tornado Alley's back porch, and spring storms out here mean business. That shows up in your insurance and your wind coverage, which can run higher than you would expect for a place this cheap. So get a real quote before you commit. You will also be a solid drive from a hospital or a big store. So if regular medical trips are part of your week, sit down and map that drive honestly. But the beauty is real, and the land per dollar is some of the best on this whole list. The next place is quiet for a much sadder reason. Number 11. Out on the high plains of western Kansas, there are whole towns that are slowly emptying out. The young people left for the cities years ago. The grain elevator still stands tall over the wheat, taller than anything else for miles. But half the storefronts on Main Street are dark now, with paper in the windows. And here is the wow fact that tells you everything you need to know. Some of these plains towns have started giving away free building lots just to get young families to move in. That is how badly they need people. Which is exactly why you can find a solid house on around 40 acres out here. For something like $40,000, big sky land, so flat that you can watch tomorrow's weather roll in for a full hour before it ever reaches you. The catch is the same thing that made it cheap. This is a shrinking town. There may be almost no jobs, the school might be an hour's bus ride each way, and the wind out here never ever stops blowing. So you have to be honest with yourself. Can you build your own life out here? Mostly on your own terms, because the town is not going to build it for you. But if you want space, real space, 40 acres under an enormous prairie sky for the price of a used sedan, this is one of the last frontiers still standing open. Number 10. Way up in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, wedged between two of the Great Lakes, you find deep northern forest, waterfalls tumbling straight out of the rock, and some of the last true wilderness left anywhere east of the Rockies. Your wow fact is written in snow. Parts of the UP get well over 200 inches of it in a single winter. That is more than 16 feet piling up against your door from November into April. A hunting-style log cabin on around 40 acres up here can list for about $55,000. And once the homestead exemption kicks in, the taxes stay reasonable. Your own private slice of the North Woods with a lake or a trout stream more often than not. The catch is that same snow. Winter up here is long, dark, and isolating in a way that is genuinely hard to imagine until you have lived through one. Heating that cabin will be a real line in your budget, wood or propane, month after month. And the nearest town might be a serious drive on a road that gets plowed if you are lucky. But if you hunt, if you fish, If you love quiet and you would happily trade noisy neighbors for a pack of wolves, you will hear far more often than you ever see. This place is close to paradise. Real quick, before the next one. If you are getting something out of this, if you are the kind of person who wants the honest version instead of the hyped up one, do me a favor and tap that like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach other folks who are lying awake, worried about the exact same thing you are. That is all. Now, back to the land. Number 9. Down in rural Alabama, the pace slows way down and the prices stay friendly. Rolling green country dotted with big shade oaks, long growing seasons that let you put in a garden most of the year, and a real southern welcome from the neighbors you do have. Here is your wow fact. Alabama has some of the lowest property taxes in the entire country. Holding a place here will barely register on your budget year after year after year. A farmhouse with around 18 acres out here can run about $45,000, with those old oaks and enough flat ground for a barn and a big vegetable patch. The catch on this style of property is one word that scares a lot of buyers off, and it should not scare you off completely. Septic. Many cheap rural homes have an old or failed septic system, or the soil never passed what is called a perk test, which is the test that decides whether the ground can even handle a septic field. If that is the situation, you are looking at a repair bill before you can really settle in. And here is why that is actually good news for you. A failed septic scares the crowd away, which keeps the price down where you can reach it. Unlike a dying town or a Western water rights mess, a septic problem is fixable. You pay a contractor once, and then you never think about it again. The next one, though, hides its catch a little better. Number 8. Here it is. The one that makes people rub their eyes and look at the screen again. The high desert of New Mexico, all mesas, and open range and a sky that goes on forever in every direction. Your wow fact is a hard number, and it is the whole reason this segment exists. New Mexico has the lowest average farm and ranch land value in the entire country. According to the USDA's 2025 Land Values Report, land here averages about $725 an acre. The national average is $4,350. So the math out here bends in your favor like it does almost nowhere else in America, which is how you end up with a small adobe or a manufactured home on around 40 acres for something like $40,000. Mesas on the horizon and sunsets that look faked in the photos and somehow look even better in person. New Mexico's property taxes are among the lowest in the nation too, often just a couple $100s a year. But this is the biggest catch on the whole list, so lean in and listen close. Water. Out here, water is everything, and a great many of these parcels have no well and no legal water rights. In the West, water is its own separate kind of property, and you cannot just assume you can drill down and pump whatever you happen to find. You could own 40 acres free and clear and still have to haul in every single drop you drink. You will also be genuinely, seriously remote, with miles of dirt road between you and pavement and a cell signal that comes and goes with the weather. Solve the water, and you have got yourself a kingdom out here. Ignore it, and you have got a very expensive campsite. Take a breath. We are past the halfway mark, and the next one comes with a problem you can actually see coming from a mile off. Number 7. Cross back up into the Missouri Ozarks, and you get spring-fed rivers, tall limestone bluffs, and cabins tucked back into the trees. It is the kind of place that looks like a screensaver and prices like a clearance rack. Your wow fact is underground. This is spring country, home to some of the clearest, coldest natural springs anywhere in the middle of the country, water bubbling straight up out of the rock, cold enough to keep your drinks chilled all summer. A cabin on around 25 acres here, very often owner financed, can list right around $45,000, with the low rural taxes you would expect this far from any city. The catch comes in two parts. First, this is karst country, which is a fancy way of saying limestone underground, and limestone means the occasional sinkhole and groundwater that can drain away faster than you would like. Second, and this is the one that quietly traps people, legal access. Some of these back parcels are landlocked, meaning there is no guaranteed public road to your own front door, only a handshake path that runs across a neighbor's field. So before you fall for that river view, you ask one blunt, boring question. Is there deeded legal road access to this property? If the answer comes back fuzzy or vague, you walk away, no matter how pretty the pictures are. Get a clear written yes, and you have got a slice of the Ozarks that people pay 10 times as much for just one state over. Number 6. Now down into southern West Virginia, McDowell County and the counties around it, some of the most dramatic scenery in the eastern half of the country. Steep folded mountains, endless forest, and mist hanging low in the valleys at first light. Out here, a house with 30 acres can list for around $48,000. Your wow fact is a sobering one. McDowell was once the beating heart of American coal. And when coal collapsed, it became one of the fastest shrinking counties in the entire country. The mountains are still standing, exactly as beautiful as they ever were. But most of the people are gone now. And that is the whole reason the price is what it is. The catch comes in two parts. One, the services are thin, and the nearest real grocery store might be a long drive down a curvy mountain road, which matters a lot more in January than it does in July. 2, and this is the sneaky one that trips up newcomers. On a lot of Appalachian property, the mineral rights were sold off 100 years ago. That means somebody else may own what sits under your land, and in some cases, they hold the legal right to come and get it. So you ask in writing whether the mineral rights convey with the sale. The West Virginia mountains will take your breath away. Just make sure you know who owns the ground beneath them. Number 5. Out on the wide grasslands of South Dakota, you get something that matters a whole lot to anyone living on a fixed income. Here is your wow fact. There is no state income tax. South Dakota is one of just 9 states in the whole country with none at all. A farmhouse on around 35 acres out here, with an old windmill still turning in the yard, can list near $42,000. In the fall, the grass goes gold for miles, pheasants break out of the ditches when you drive by, and the whole horizon feels like it belongs to you and nobody else. Now think hard about what that no income tax line really means for you. If you live on Social Security, a pension, or your savings, keeping every dollar of that money instead of handing a slice of it to the state, year after year, can quietly reshape your whole retirement. The catch is the climate and the quiet. Winters here can drop to 40 below zero, and the wind has had nothing to slow it down for 1,000 miles before it reaches your front door. Some of these prairie towns are shrinking right along with the ones back in Kansas, so you will drive a good long way for anything fancy. But you get cheap land, no income tax, and a night sky so thick with stars with zero light pollution that the first time you see it, you will just stand there in the cold and stare straight up. Just buy yourself a very, very good coat before that first winter. And speaking of no income tax, this next state has the exact same perk, with a catch that surprises almost everybody who moves there. Number 4. West Texas and the Panhandle, where everything really is bigger, including the acreage you can afford. Mesquite brush and open range as far as the eye can see, big empty roads, and sunrises that stretch across the entire horizon. And yes, Texas is another one of those 9 no-income tax states. A house on around 40 acres out here can list near $50,000. But here is the catch that catches almost everyone. No income tax does not mean no taxes at all. Texas has some of the highest property taxes in the entire country. So the money the state does not take out of your paycheck, it may quietly take right back out of you through your land every single year you own it. So you run those property tax numbers with a clear head before you celebrate, because on a big parcel, they add up in a hurry. And there is a second catch out here worth knowing. A lot of this region drinks from the Ogallala Aquifer, and that underground water table has been dropping for years. Out here, a reliable deep well can be worth more than the house sitting on top of it. Do the tax math, confirm the well is good and deep, and you get more sky than you will ever know what to do with. Now we go about as far from Texas as this country reaches. Number 3. Way up in northern Maine, past where the highways really bother to run, there is a wilderness of lakes and forest that rolls on for millions of acres. This is about as deep into the woods as you can get in the eastern United States and still buy yourself an actual house. Here is the one I tease at the very start. A cabin on a full 40 acres up here, with a still lake out front and fall colors burning along the ridgeline, can list near $50,000. That is less than half of 1 year of care for 40 acres and your own quiet water. You could sit on that dock every evening from June through October and never see another boat. Just the mist coming up off the water and a moose picking its way along the far shore. The property taxes on a place this remote stay low because there is almost nothing out here to tax. The catch is the isolation, and it is a big one. Much of this region is what Maine calls unorganized territory, which means there may be no town government, no snow plowing, and no local services at all. In the depth of winter, you are genuinely on your own out there. If the road does not get maintained, it does not get maintained, and congratulations, you are the road crew now. But for someone who has spent a whole life just wishing the world would go quiet for 1 minute, this is the answer to that wish. Loons calling across the lake at dusk, northern lights rippling green in a clear October sky. Air so clean and so cold it almost hurts to pull it into your lungs. We have got 2 left, and the next one comes with a warning that has nothing to do with the land and everything to do with the clock. Number 2. Tennessee, the Cumberland Plateau. Waterfalls, deep gorges, hardwood forest, and, you guessed it, no state income tax. Another, one of the 9. A house with around 15 acres on the plateau can still be found near $55,000, right at the top of what we would honestly call cheap. Your wow fact doubles as the catch, and it is different from every other one on this list. There is nothing wrong with the land at all. The problem is that everyone else already figured this out. Tennessee is one of the fastest growing states in the whole country, and the plateau is getting bought up fast. Prices that were almost a joke 5 years ago are climbing hard right now. The steep wooded hollows keep some of it cheap for a little while longer, but that window is closing right in front of us. So this one is not a warning about a flood zone or a bad well or a dying town. It is a warning about time, because the honest, gettable Tennessee deal that exists today may simply be gone tomorrow. Look, you have seen it on every single place on this list. The dream is real, the price is real, but there is always a catch hiding somewhere in the fine print. And here is the honest truth after doing this a long time. One bad deal, one house you cannot insure, one well that runs dry, one no-tax state that quietly taxes you to death, costs more than everything I am about to mention many times over. So I put it all in one place. The complete Cheap Living Field Edition. 3 guides, cheap land, cheap houses, and the state-by-state notebook, plus the due diligence worksheets you carry right to the county office. Separately, it would run about $45. Together, it is $29.99. And the worksheets are free in the bundle. Think of it as the cheapest insurance you will ever buy on the biggest bargain of your life. It is linked right in the description. Now, our last one, and it might just be my favorite, number one. And number one is not really for sale at all. For our last one, I want you to forget the price tags for a second, because the most beautiful piece of land I can possibly show you cannot be bought at any price. And here is the twist. You already own a share of it. Right now, spread all across this country, there are hundreds of millions of acres of national forest, national grassland, and public land. Mountains, rivers, canyons, meadows, old-growth trees older than the flag itself. Land that no dying coal town can empty out, and no dropping aquifer can drain away. And every single acre of it belongs to you, exactly as much as it belongs to anybody else alive. Now, you do not get to build a cabin on it. That is the catch, and it is a fair one. But you can walk it, camp on it, fish it, and fall asleep under its stars for about the price of a tank of gas. No mortgage, no property tax, no mineral rights fine print buried in a deed. No well to drill and pray over. So while you are out there hunting for your own 40 acres, and I truly hope you find them, do not forget the acres you have had all along. A deed with your name on it is a fine thing to want, and worth chasing. But what you are really after underneath all of it is the feeling of standing on ground that is yours. And that feeling does not only come with a price tag attached. Some of it you can genuinely buy in the green hills of Kentucky and the wide deserts of New Mexico. And the best of it was handed to you free the day you were born in this country. Because think back to where we started. The same money buys you one of two things: 12 months in a shared room down a long hallway, and at the end of it, nothing at all with your name on it. Or a home and the land wrapped around it that stays yours for as long as you live. Nobody ever sat you down and told you that you had a choice. Well, now you know. If this earned your trust, that is the whole reason I make these. So go ahead and subscribe, because I go looking for these places so you do not get burned by the fakes. And if you know somebody who has spent years quietly believing a home of their own was out of reach for people like them, send them this. One, it just might change the way they see the next chapter of their life. Do your homework, pull the flood maps, ask about the well and the septic and the mineral rights, and never buy a piece of land you have not stood on with your own 2 feet. And remember, this is not financial, legal real estate, or medical advice. Prices, taxes, insurance, flood risk, and care costs all change. So verify every home yourself before you buy. Your 40 acres are out there. Go find them.